All right, cool. All right, here we are. The Continuum of Jorge Estrada, District of Columbia's the greatest of Earth, life, and human history. Star Trek, Conquest, Triumph, Dominion, Victoria, and more. All 100% plus factual, accurate, truthful, and real. Now, so we're now going to do what then happened from 2006 to 2013, Friday the 13th, December 2013 AD. So remember at the end of the video I just finished, I was rejected by the founder of Sire Records, who rejected Jimi Hendrix in 1966 and who rejected me in 2006 and produced the legendary historic album of the Go-Go's, Beauty and the Beat, who were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this, I think that was the class of 2021, right? They were featured on the cover of Rock Seller magazine, and Rock Seller magazine reached out to me and asked me to like their page and follow them around the same time of their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. Right. So here we go. Now, there was supposed to be a show that was going to interview me out of New Jersey, two of them. One of them recently interviewed Belinda Carlisle of the Go-Go's about a year and several months ago, along with the Go-Go's. But I won't get into those two shows or their producers or hosts. I'll save that for an entirely separate video when the time is right. Both out of New Jersey. Now, moving forward, 2006 to 2013. Let's go. First video I just wrapped up was done inside of 60 minutes. And I'm going to try to do this in even shorter time. All right. Okay. So then, in 2006, my demo, I got linked to a Larry Kelly of Head Entertainment out of Houston, Texas. His female partner was with Universal Records out of the upper Midwest. They listened to the 2006 demo, and his female partner said it wasn't commercial enough. Okay. But then 2006 to 2007, I was working at a marketing research firm and got linked to the father of Smokey Robinson, the mayor of Motown Records' 3 grandchildren, as in Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, as in the man who has written over 4,000 songs. Okay. So long story short, Sergio Ontiveros was the father of Tamla Robinson's 3 children. And Tamla's parents are Smokey Robinson, which is her dad, and her mom is Claudette Robinson, the first lady of Motown. I believe Smokey co-wrote Who's Loving You for and by the Jackson 5. Now, Sergio offered to remix my demo of originals and to fly out to Beverly Hills, California, to his private recording studio. And he told me that, basically, he was extremely connected throughout Los Angeles in terms of the major recording industry. That was around March of 2008. At the time, my former bandmates and my former backup band and I were recording and rehearsing out of a house in Falls Church, Virginia. And what's fascinating about that is that years and years prior to that, I once auditioned for a band in the same area. Don't know why I did it. I mean, I just wasn't there. And when I did, lo and behold, it was a fellow classmate of the senior class of the Arlington Public School that Jim Morrison of the Doors graduated from in 1961. And he went to that school with him. So this is like late 90s, relatively around, I think, right, mid to late 90s. But that's later. Okay, here we go. So Smokey Robinson's ex-son-in-law and father of his 3 grandchildren offered to remix my demo of originals at his studio in Beverly Hills, California, but I said no. Why? Because I know, it just doesn't, I know, but I'll try to make sense of it. I just wasn't there musically, especially as a singer. So I didn't feel comfortable going out to Beverly Hills, hooking up with Sergio, the father of Smokey Robinson's 3 grandchildren, going to his recording studio in Beverly Hills, having the whole band fly out there, and then for him to learn that, I would need some serious coaching. But maybe I should have back then. But I just felt like it just wasn't time. Well, unfortunately and tragically, Sergio Ontiveros left us. He passed away, I believe, January of 2022. And remember, I'm irrigating. Yeah, I'm. It's called Neil Med Sinus Rinse Kit. I'm irrigating all of the gook out of my chest cavity, throat, and nasal passageway. So when I do my anthology storyteller performance showcases, which will be 4 of my NUKED All Clears of Eternal events in just a few weeks, my singing voice and the sound of my singing voice and the tone and the pitch and the colors and the notes are premium, prime, optimum. And that perhaps so I'll hit notes I didn't even know existed inside of me. Okay? All right. So, excuse me. I know, not very attractive. I know, gosh. Hold on here, gosh. Oh, boy. Okay. All right. Lovely. I know, lovely, right? All right. So let's get back to it. So I learned that Sergio Ontiveros, who made me that offer in March of 2008, passed away, I believe, January of last 2022. I want to say to Sergio, who's now in heaven, and who is the father of Smokey Robinson's 3 grandchildren. Right. To his brother, his daughter, his family, that I am most humbled and honored and flattered that Sergio was one of the first to take notice of me and that I was connected to. And I'll never forget that he was willing to invite me out to Beverly Hills to remix my demo. I'll never forget that ever. And he was there for me. You know, we corresponded and spoke multiple times on the phone, and I'll never forget that. Okay. Um, then after that came 2010. I was at my DuPont Circle metro station in my neighborhood of DuPont Circle Northwest DC, Estrada. I was coming up the escalator and I heard what sounded like a violin. And I get up to the top of the escalator, 19th Street exit of DuPont Circle. This is June 2010. And there he was, the magic man himself, Bliss Ananda, and his female soulmate and partner, Aisha, I think, Striggles. Aisha Striggles. She is no longer with us. Um, she also passed away, so uh, rest in peace to Aisha. Um, Rest in peace and in power and privilege and prestige, Sergio Ontiveros. Uh, okay, so he's up there, and I see this magical looking man, street performer. Well, not a street performer, but performing. And he's playing the electric violin to the Seal song Kiss from a Rose. And wearing a King of Pop Michael Jackson t shirt. And on the t shirt, Michael Jackson has his hat and his crystal glass glove on. Do you think I knew that mid June of 2010, coming up the escalator of DuPont Circle Metro Station at the 19th Street exit across from the park, where my dad first walked up to my mom in March of 1970, where I first met and walked up to the mother of my daughter, and many, many more. Do you think I knew back then that I would have the same glove that was made for the King of Pop's 1984 Michael Jackson Thriller Jackson's Victory Tour? Made for me professionally, personally, and directly by one of the 10 members of Jackie Jackson of the Jacksons Jazzbo Incorporated costume design and make team of and for the 1984 Michael Jackson Thriller Jackson's Victory Tour. But she did. The one and the only Rhonda Nelson Boglin made me the crystal glass glove that she made for the King of Pop. I mentioned that in hindsight to June of 2010 because that was the t-shirt that Bliss Ananda had on when I first laid eyes on him while he was playing an electric blue violin to the song Kiss from a Rose by Seal. And on top of that, when I first saw Bliss Ananda June of 2010, did I know that I would meet at the White Horse Tavern on the 9th of January, 10th of January, 2016, with Lydia Criss, the ex-wife of the co-founding drummer of Kiss, the Catman Peter Criss, who is the unauthorized author, publisher, and photographer of what is widely regarded as the most truthful tell-all behind the scenes of the beginning to the rise of Kiss. And guess what that book is called? Sealed with a Kiss by Lydia Criss. Criss, as in Peter Criss. When I went up that escalator on the 19th Street exit of DuPont Circle Metro Station that June of 2010 and saw who would become one of the very first members of my DMV Pantheonic Crux Crew Corps, Legion Familia, live performance team, studio projects production team, he had the Michael Jackson t-shirt with Michael wearing the glove, and he was playing Sealed. He was playing the Sealed song, Kiss from a Rose. I did not know how these two legendary historic women, the unauthorized author, publisher, photographer of the Kiss behind the scenes Kiss book, Sealed with a Kiss, and Rhonda Nelson Boglin, who partook and made costumes and clothing and gloves for Michael Jackson and his brothers throughout the 1984 Thriller Jackson Victory Tour, which was the highest grossing tour of the entire era and decade of MTV and the 80s of rock and pop, and of the explosion of hip hop. Highest grossing tour of the 80s. The Michael Jackson Thriller Jackson's Victory Tour. I didn't know that when I first saw Bliss and came up the escalator June of 2010. We will get to the 9th of January, the 10th of January, when Lydia Criss of Sealed with a Kiss, the ex-wife of the co-founding drummer of Kiss, the Catman Peter Criss, took me through Kissoyalty and Kisstory. We will get into the Saturday night of June 10th of 2017, when Rhonda Nelson Boglin, whose father played drums, Bobby Nelson, aka nicknamed the Lil Max Roach, played drums for Della Reese, Brett Fox of Sanford and Son, Johnny Mathis, and Miles Davis. Rhonda made costumes for the Michael Jackson Off the Wall tour, I believe the Jacksons Triumph tour, for Earth, Wind, and Fire. She did clothing for the background singers of Donna Summer. She did alterations for Rick James. She made clothing for Barry White and Marvin Gaye. And she did alterations for Billy Preston. Billy Preston played for Little Richard in the early 60s when there was an unsigned, unknown, unpopular group called the Beatles that were the opening act on tour with them. He then went on to play for Ray Charles. Then after Ray Charles, he started working with the Beatles in the EMI, aka Abbey Road studio, as featured in the documentary on Apple TV last year called Get Back. Then after the Beatles, Billy Preston became the primary touring keyboardist and studio keyboardist of the Rolling Stones from 1973 to 1977. He had multiple chart-topping hit songs throughout the 70s. His hit song, Outer Space People, was picked by Dick Clark to become the permanent mid-break instrumental song for American Bandstand. And he portrayed and starred as Sergeant Pepper in the 1978 movie Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The soundtrack was produced by the Bee Gees, and it featured Peter Frampton and Alice Cooper and Billy Preston, to name a few. But we're not inside of January 2016 right now. We're not inside of June 2017 right now. So we're going to stay the course. So I run into Bliss Ananda June of 2010, and I played my demo for him because ever since the conversation I had with Michael Bolton's career bassist from 2006 to 2007, when he shared my demo of originals with the founder of Sire Records, who produced the debut album of the Go-Go's, who signed the Talking Heads, the Dead Boys, Television, Ice-T, Madonna, and Deborah Harry's band. Hold on. I know. Whew. Okay, so Bliss, right. So he became very first member when I played it for him. Oh, that's right. What happened after I did not fly out to Beverly Hills, California, to take up the offer of Smokey Robinson's ex-son-in-law and the father of his 3 grandchildren to have my demo of originals remixed in March of 2008, I walked up to a street vendor in my upper northwest quadrant of DC, who was the keyboardist of a legendary underground art punk band under the genre called No Wave, and the band was called No Trend. And they were a popular DC-based underground art punk band of the mid to late 80s. They did an entire album with Lydia Lunch, the queen of punk rock B-side heroin movies. You know, like a female version of a superhero. Not a hero, but a heroine. Yeah. She did, Lydia Lunch did all of these underground B-side punk rock movies during the punk rock era of New York City, New York's 70s and CBGBs. So I believe in 1986, she did an entire album with No Trend. She's been coined as the queen of what's called No Wave. And No Trend was a no wave band. Well, the keyboardist of that band that did an entire album with her, she also collaborated with them on their album called A Dozen Dead Roses. I walked up to that keyboardist of No Trend in 2009. I took what Michael Bolton's career bassist said to me in 2006, 2007. I took what was exchanged between the father of Smokey Robinson, the mayor of Motown Records' 3 grandchildren, and I exchanged in 2008. And I knew that the keyboardist of No Trend had his own studio inside of his studio apartment. So we recorded inside of his studio apartment under my production direction a new demo. I called it the Revisionist Demo. And we did so from 2009 to 2011. 2009 to 2011. And he recorded it and mixed it. And I did everything on keyboard through the software and led the production of the demo. And then I ran into Bliss Ananda that mid-June of 2010. And I talked to him and we hit it off instantly. And I handed it my demo and he voluntarily played it in his boombox. I think it was like a boombox because he was performing right there at DuPont Circle. And he said, this has great potential. And I remember around that time, he went to Canada to the Busker Fest and joined the stage with the band Cage the Elephant. And I believe it was headlined by Stone Temple Pilots. And I remember talking to Bliss from my, I love my daughter, I love my family, from our ring fountain of DuPont Circle Park. And he said to me back then that June of 2010 to July of 2010, you are a magic man. Your songs have great potential. You have started a mass movement. He said that to me. That was June of 2010. That was 12 and a half years ago. Boy, was he right on all fronts. As a matter of fact, I'm messaging him later today, tonight, with all of the latest updates. So he is still a member of the team, and let's keep going. Then that same year of 2010, I was made an offer by a mini major record label owner by the name of Neil Sheehan of Standby Records out of Cleveland, Ohio. And they had just released a band called the Black Veil Brides that would blow up and be featured on the soundtrack of Scream 3 and Transformer 4, or Transformer 3, Scream 4. Black Veil Brides would go on to headline the band's Warped Tour. They would be on the cover of all of the magazines. Yes. So I got an offer from Neil Sheehan of Standby Records because of my material of my demo of originals that was on my MySpace.com. He offered to fly me out to Cleveland, Ohio to meet up with the members of his production team called Chin Music Productions. He wanted to remix and rearrange my demo of originals. I didn't do it. At the time, that same record label owner and his mini major record label were working with the iconic rapper Vanilla Ice on what would have been his sixth studio album called WTF, Wisdom, Tenacity, Focus. Because of the offer I got from Standby Records that summer of 2010, Vanilla Ice and his manager and I hung out in his VIP section in McFadden's by GW in June of 2010, and then again at the Power Plant Live in Baltimore, Maryland on the night of the 8th of October 2010. And lo and behold, I learned that that was the 14th anniversary night of the release of Marilyn Manson's Antichrist Superstar. Hey, it's facts. Okay. But yeah, no vulgarity, no profanity, nothing inappropriate here. Okay. And that happened. But I did not fly out to Cleveland, Ohio. I did not meet up with Chen, like Chen to get like clocked on the chin. Right. Oh, sorry. Well, you know what I'm Chen. Yeah. So I did not meet with Chen Music Productions of Standby Records in Cleveland, Ohio. They had a studio then in Los Angeles, California. I didn't do it. So then I reconnected with someone that I would cross paths with regularity, who was a local guitarist. And he had just informed me at the tail end of 2010 that he had just co-founded a new band with one of the greatest drummers of rock and pop history. Jimmy Chamberlin, the drummer and co-founder of the Smashing Pumpkins. The name of the band was Skysaw. So that was the talent of 2010. So I remember sharing my demo that I did with the keyboardist of No Trend, the underground legendary art punk group that worked with the queen of no wave music genre and the queen of punk B-side heroine movies, as in a female hero, Lydia Lunch. So anyway, right. So I presented him with my music, and he said, "Man, I'll lay down guitar tracks for you." I said, "Okay, if and when I'm ready, we'll do that." But it didn't happen. Then I remember going to the Skysaw show at the Black Cat on 14th Street, Northwest Estrada, DC, that July of 2011. There was a very small and weak turnout. Their album called Greatest Civilizations did not fare well, and that was the end. I later heard from this local guitar player that he never heard back from Jimmy Chamberlin of the Smashing Pumpkins. I don't know if that's true, but the bottom line is, Jimmy JC, I appreciate you, man, because Jimmy Chamberlin was one of the very first Instagram account pages to enable and allow me to place my NUKED All Clearism post of mine onto his page, I think back in June of 2018. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? But look, I'm not going to go by what this local guitar player said. The bottom line, the record release show at the Black Cat, half of the second floor was empty. I thought it was a decent album, but it didn't do well. So that was it. So, it didn't work out. I'm surmising that Jimmy Chamberlin of the Smashing Pumpkins gave it a shot and it didn't work, and he just moved on, period. So that's 2011. Then I get contacted in August of 2011 by the man who is now the executor of the estate of the one and the only George Michael, formerly of Wham, via myspace.com and my MySpace account page. I think the name of his company was iplacemusic.com or iplacementmusic.com. Long story short, a member of his team contacted me, and lo and behold, before you knew it, I was outside of Northside Social Cafe in Arlington, Virginia, on my cell phone with his wife. We spoke for 2.5 hours out in the patio area of Northside Social Cafe. I cannot believe that was already 11 and a half years ago. I just saluted to an incredible photo of my daughter. I love her. My daughter, my soulmate, my heiress, my empress. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, Now, let's get back on track with this. So, I remember she kept saying to me on the phone, "There's something about you. There's just something about you. I can sense it. I can feel it. It's really, really big." Wow. So Andros, his team reached out to me. I didn't do anything with it. I wasn't ready yet. But he is now currently the executor of the estate of George Michael. He was the funeral director of George Michael's funeral. And now my understanding is you have to go through him to get any approvals for anything related to George Michael, who, may I add, is um, a nominee for the next induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we all know he's going to get in. He's one of the greatest singers and songwriters of pop history ever, and perhaps of all time. So that's a no-brainer. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm going to message the executor of his estate in a few days to update him and to let him know that, and to congratulate um, his cousin's now in nomination into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There will most certainly be an induction. Okay, now that's 2011. Then in 2011, I also met that summer in June of 2011. I went to Bliss Ananda's CD release party at the Anacostia Museum in Southeast DC, and was met through Bliss Ananda, the former bassist and co-producer of the Godfather of Rap, Gil Scott-Heron, who's famous for his quote and verse, "The revolution will not be televised." Gil Scott-Heron was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2021, along with the Go-Go's. I met Robbie Gordon in 2011 through Bliss Ananda, and he's a member of my team, as is Bliss Ananda. Then I am Facebook friends with the executor of the estate of George Michael, and I consider him, he first reached out to me in August of 2011. So you never know. But he's not DMV, so he's I believe in LA right now. He transferred from London to Los Angeles. Okay, all right. Right. Then we have. By the way, I think it's fascinating that I learned last year, or I think a year plus ago, that the song "We Got the Beat" by the Go-Go's was inspired by the Smokey Robinson song "Going to the Go-Go's." Oh boy. Okay. Wow. Anyway, it was inspired by that Smokey Robinson song. And yeah. Jeez. All right. Yeah, so that would be the impetus to "We Got the Beat." But boy, do I have the beat now. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then after 2011, also in 2010, I got linked to the former chief sound engineer of 10 years of Rush. Through his fiance. And she worked in a boutique owned by him that was one floor underneath my office suite with a conference room, full-size kitchen that was leased out on my behalf for 12 straight months from June of 2010 to June 2011. This former chief sound engineer of Rush owns a company that is responsible for all of the historic landmark events at the National Mall reflection pool held from, I believe, the 1950s on to now. I will not name the company or the .com or the man that I'm speaking of, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. Um, okay. Almost there. Yep, there it is right here. I also shared my demo with the lead singer frontman of the group Godhead that was actually, I believe, signed by Richard Goddard of Sire Records and produced by him, who collaborated with one of David Bowie's guitar players, Reeves Gabrels, and whose band Godhead was picked up and signed by Marilyn Manson to his record label, Post-Human Records, in 2000, 2001. The album is called 2000 Years of Human Error. And they were also featured on the soundtrack of the movie Queen of the Damned. They were also on the soundtrack of the Marvel Comics movie Punisher 3. I believe they were the opening act for one of Marilyn Manson's world tours called the Debt to the World Tour. It's funny because he and I had first crossed paths in 1994, 1995 at the diner in Silver Spring, Maryland. Then again at the original Black Cat on 14th Street, Northwest DC, I believe in 1996. Then we crossed paths again, I think, in 2001 at Club Nation in downtown DC, Estrada. Then after that, which was the time that their album had been released and they were on Marilyn Manson's record label. But then we ran into each other in, I believe it was February, March of 2010. Because a member of the industrial rock scene of my city of DC had lost his life in February of 2010. And the lead singer, frontman of Godhead, they were friends. I believe they even graduated from the same high school out of Fairfax, Virginia. And so some, organically, cosmically, and otherwise, I'm peering down at the coffin of this person that was no longer with us. And I look across and peering down, or on the other side was the lead singer frontman of Godhead. He recognized me, I recognized him, and he handed me the last card he had left to hand out right there in front of an entire crowd of the DC industrial rock scene of District of Columbia, Estrada. Okay. Then so I shared my demo with him. I think it was 2011. And he said, quote, "I like what I'm hearing here, but I got to hear them vocals." He has his own recording studio in North Hollywood Hills. He's worked with Bret Michaels of Poison. I believe he worked with Miley Cyrus. I believe he worked with one of the Gibbons brothers of ZZ Top. I just learned recently that ZZ Top was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones himself. And my father loves the song Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. One of his cassette LPs is ZZ Top's album Eliminator. Okay. Um. So okay. So now we go past 2011. Um. And I'm at this venue and place of business in Arlington, Virginia, on Wilson Boulevard, and I run into this person who would link me to the former personal drummer of Prince Rogers Nelson, aka Prince, as in Prince and the Revolution and Purple Rain. He would link me to Michael Bland, the former drummer of Prince's Paisley Park Records label band Madhouse, who would then become the drummer of Prince's new power generation. Michael Bland is the drummer on the Prince and MPG album of 1991, Diamonds and Pearls, that sold 13 million records worldwide and is certified diamond. Michael Bland also co-produced Prince's #1 album in 2006 called 3121. Michael Bland owns his own company out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota, which I believe is a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota, called Sonic Matrimony. Long story short, I think it was 2011 or 2012, but I met that direct link. He shared my demo of originals with Prince's former drummer, and his reply was, "This has potential. This is good. It has potential. But have him send it back to me as complete songs." Because I didn't send him the earlier demos of 2005 to 2008. I sent him the revisionist demo I did from 2009 to 2011 that didn't have any vocals or lyrics or verses or choruses. It's purely instrumental, rough tracks. So I met this direct link to Prince's personal drummer randomly, not organically and cosmically, at a venue up and down Wilson Boulevard in Arlington, Virginia. I know. Who runs into a direct link to Prince's personal drummer and co-producer of Prince's #1 album at a place of business in Arlington? I do. Okay. I am still friends with Michael Bland on Facebook, and I messaged him several months ago last year, and we'll be following through with him. I had my demo of originals also shared by the same link to Prince's personal drummer, to Dan Wilson of Semisonic, of that song, It's Closing Time. Right. Da 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 da, that one. Well, Dan Wilson produced the 2 chart-topping #1 songs for Adele. I forget the names of the songs. And he produced for Pink. He had nothing good to say about my demo of originals and was not interested. Well, look at me now. I remember I played my demo of originals after he rejected me and talked the trash that he talked about me to 2 female adult friends of mine who lived in downtown DC at the time. I think it was 2012. And they go, "Are you kidding me? Your rough tracks are far more complex and way better. His songs are too simple, sparse, and really honestly boring. And if those songs were a part, I'm going to stop there. I'll stop there. Okay. But anyway, let's move on. Okay. Then 2012, I link up with Matthew Wood. Okay. Of course, I get a phone call now. Hold on here. Hello. I'm doing 2006 to 2013 live on YouTube now, and I'm inside of 2012. What's up? Okay, no problem. All right, bye-bye. Okay. So, as I work. So then, um, right. It's 2012. Matthew Wood, aka Wonder Boy of the Pocket Band, links me up with his bandmates. Terrence Brown, aka Big T of Teb Jr. Productions, and Carl Chucky Thompson. Now, this is huge. All of it is huge. But this was also from the time I first met Blissananda to when Matthew Wood of the Pocket Band, a DC-based band, a roots reggae rock fusion band, and I converged in 2012. I'll tell you why. We first met through my original lead rhythm guitarist of A Revolution of Beauty, who was my lead rhythm guitarist from 2009 to 2010, 2002 to 2009, when we used to rehearse in that guitar player's studio apartment on 19th and Corcoran Street, Northwest DC, right across from DuPont Circle Park. And I'll tell you what's amazing about that. That same building on 19th and Corcoran is the first apartment my dad leased when he moved out of the basement of my half-aunt's house, right around the corner from the Fox 5 WTTG station in Tinleytown off of Wisconsin Avenue, right down the street from Chevy Chase and the border of Bethesda, Maryland. Because that's where my dad moved into in 1966 when he landed, settled, and conquered and eternally established. So, well, let's stay on course here. We'll get to my father and all that, but we have to stick to the sequential set order. So something really groundbreaking happened to me in the first half of 2012. Don't get shocked. Why do I say that? Because you would think that I would have known and had listened to this king of hip hop recording artist way earlier. I was with one of my close friends. And he says to me, "You ever listen to the Notorious B.I.G.?" I said, "No." This was the beginning of 2012. He goes, "What? What do you mean you've never listened to Biggie Smalls? He's the greatest rapper. He's the greatest rapper of all time." I said, "You got to be kidding me." Really? I said that meaning I don't know, not because of any other reason. He goes, "Man, have a seat." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm going to play his album debut, Ready to Die, for you." He said, "You better get ready. It's life-changing." I said, yeah. Okay. It was one of the life-defining changing moments of my greatest of all earth life and human history life. It just was. The first thing I heard was ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Easy Mo B's production, one of the greatest songs ever. Warning, ba-boom. As soon as I heard that bass line, I said, oh my God, what the heck is going on here? Because I knew I was about to experience something that was life changing. And it was. By the time that I got through the song Warning by the Notorious B.I.G., produced by Easy Mo B, I was already startled. Remember when you all first heard him for the first time, what was your response? Wow. Right? Right. You were wowed. Okay. And now here I have direct connectivity with Biggie's entire web. I've corresponded directly with his mother, Miss Valletta Wallace, multiple times. I got multiple direct reactions from the executor of his estate, Wayne Barrow, of Barrow Films. Wayne and Valletta were the co-executive producers of City of Lies with Johnny Depp and Johnny Depp's sister, in collaboration with Johnny Depp's film production company, Infinitum Nihil, which is root Latin, Vulgate, our ancestral language, the root foundational language of the West. I just reached out recently to Nashim Myrick, the one and the only, who produced one of the greatest hip hop songs ever as well for Biggie. Now, I will say this for the record, because my daughter is 16, and I know Valletta Wallace agrees with me and everyone else. Biggie is beyond words. But his music, the lyrical content of his music, of his catalog and songs, not suitable for minors under 18. I would even go as far to say as 21. But remember, I'm my daughter's 16, so yeah. I mean, but okay, all right. I mean, it's facts. Okay, everybody knows it. Okay, but my Biggie web is, I mean, several of them have been, I'm throughout their official verified Instagram account pages. I'm honored, I'm humbled, I'm flattered. From Lil C's, of Junior Mafia, Lil Kim, Queen Bee, and Queen of Hip Hop. And Nashim Myrick produced not only Biggie but Lil Kim. On Diddy's official page, Valletta Wallace's official page, Wayne Barrow's page, who's the executor of Biggie's estate. Excuse me for a moment, please. Yes. Have you stepped inside that office yet or not? Okay, once you step out and step back in, call me before you drive out. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. So, I know we're almost to 2013. I know. We're doing great here. So let's not get caught up in my Notorious B.I.G. web, because then that'll take over. We'll get into that. But just Nashim Myrick responded to me recently. I told him I would follow through, and I will. We'll get into yeah. I don't want to get off course here. But anyway, now back to 2012. So I get reconnected with Matthew Wood of the DC band, The Pocket Band, Lo and behold, the bassist of the Pocket Band and business partner of the band leader of the Pocket Band was one of Biggie Small's former producers, Carl Chucky Thompson, of the Hitmen of Bad Boy Records and Entertainment Incorporated for Puff Daddy, now Diddy. Carl Chucky Thompson co-produced Big Papa, One More Chance, Got a Story to Tell, Dead Wrong for the Notorious B.I.G. and other songs. So I'm first introduced to Terrence Brown, aka Big T, of the Pocket Band at a venue in downtown DC on what was the night of the 17th of December 2012 through Wonder Boy, their keyboardist, who replaced Raheem Devon, the R&B pop star, multi-platinum artist, nominated award-winning artist of DC, who was the original keyboardist of the Pocket Band and was taught how to play keyboards by Terrence Brown, aka Big T of the Pocket Band. So I meet Big T for the first time in downtown DC. He listens to my revisionist demo that I did with the keyboardist of that underground art punk group, No Trend. He goes, clever. That following February of 2013, the Pocket Band has a performance at the State Theater in Falls Church, Virginia. Long story short, that would be my introduction to Carl Chucky Thompson, the one and the only, who also produced the album that catapulted the career of Mary J. Blige, the Sentinel album called My Life. Carl Chucky Thompson, who also produced the first two double platinum, multi-platinum albums of the First Lady of Bad Boy Records, widow of the Notorious B.I.G., and the mother of his only son, Christopher Jordan Wallace, who is the brother of Biggie's only daughter, Tiana Dream Wallace, whose mother is Biggie's high school sweetheart, Janice, as depicted in 2009 biopic Notorious. So Chucky did both of Faith Evans' first two albums, several songs on Biggie's Ready to Die album, and Life After Death double album that has now sold 30 million records worldwide. And Mary J. Blige's the album that changed the course and career of Mary J. Blige, My Life. He produced 80% plus of that album from top to bottom. Now, I remember when Big T, after I was introduced to him by Wonder Boy of the Pocket Band, that night of the 17th of December 2012, said to me, we have a show at the Bayou in Georgetown, not the original Bayou, under the bridge, inside the Georgetown Harbor, next to the movie theater. No. The Bayou, a smaller place, at the border of, I would say, M Street into Georgetown. And that was on the night of my Holy Roman Latin, of my Roman Latin holiday of Christmas Eve. That was the 24th of December, 2012. Wow. That was 10 years ago, man. Wow. So I went to the Bayou so that I could meet Carl Chucky Thompson for the first time. I was excited because I was told he co-produced Big Papa, the worldwide smash hit single for the Notorious B.I.G. I know. It's awesome. I show up to the show. Big T says to me, he's not going to make it tonight. I said, why? He's in DC in the studio working with Jamie Foxx. I said, wow. And I think he was in the studio producing a song for Jamie Foxx to sing to for the movie soundtrack, I think called Django Unchained or something like that. Some like Wild Western flick. Right. So then I said, when's the next show? He said, the State Theater, February of 2013. I said, okay, I'll be there. I was there. I was picked up by the keyboardist of Big T and Carl Chucky Thompson's DC band, the Pocket Band. He picked me up. I got in the car with Wonder Boy, their keyboardist, and he drove me to the back of the State Theater, where I interviewed the lead singer frontman of the Doors tribute band, the Soft Parade, as a member of the first Spanish language weekly and daily newspaper out of my city of DC, back then called La Nación USA. I was with them from 1999 to 2002, and I interviewed the lead singer of the Doors tribute band, the Soft Parade, in the driveway that leads to the side exit of the State Theater back then. Now let's come back to 2013. So I go to the back area of the State Theater. I meet Carl Chucky Thompson. Long story short, we were backstage right by the side entrance. He looks down at me and he says, "You've got the right spirit." Okay. That was February of 2013. Now, we go back to 2012. I also reconnected with the Emmy Award-winning front cameraman of Wolf Blitzer's Situation Room on CNN TV, who has or had his own ska, jazz, punk, fusion rock band called The Originators. And I would go to their shows, and he would take my revisionist demo and have his chief sound engineer of his independent record label, District Records, do a semi-mix, remix, and cleanup of my rough tracks. I believe that was 2012 to 2013. I remember it was the 19th of January, 2013. And I got dropped off by a friend, stepped out, was at a red light, facing the old, what's the NPR building where the Bank of America used to be, where I was a teller at, like in the mid-90s or something. And I have the right of way, and I'm crossing the pedestrian crosswalk on the night of January 19th, 2013, and it's Wolf Blitzer in the car, because I was heading to his front cameraman show right around the corner on 7th Street by the convention center in the direction of the Shaw neighborhood. Long story short, he rolls his window down. I walk up to him. I said, "I'm going to check out blankety blank's show." He goes, "Oh yeah." So yeah, he's your front cameraman. I said, "Remember the name Jorge Estrada. Don't forget it." He said, "Okay." And this was while his light was red and mine was green. He literally, Wolf Blitzer, rolled down his window for me. And I said that to him. I said, I'm heading to his show now." He said, "Okay." That was it. Listen to me now, man. I don't do any of the politics. Okay? To me, it's powerless and a waste of time. And it's insignificant to me. Yes. Okay, bye-bye. So then let's move forward. 2013. Here we are. Then after that, I'm into 100% reality, facts, truth, accuracy, regardless of the topic. But because I've decided to take a different direction to counter all of the counter reverse psychological sociocultural none suchness, at best rate 50% true and real to negative sub-zero non-existent. So now we're going to head in this direction and do it my way in terms of the narratives, the pathologies, the descriptives, the methodologies, the titles, everything, whether it's in regards to race, history, ancestry, reality, truth, clarity, sanity, all of it. This way. Okay. Now, so that year, I'm attending shows of the Pocket Band and the Originators. And then comes the night of Friday the 13th, December 2013. Oh, wait a minute. I think I skipped over something. No, not yet. Wow. Well, I'm really on track here. Then on the night of Friday the 13th, December 2013, a night I will never forget. And I'm sure that those who have direct full knowledge of that night and all that it entailed and who know of me and of we the Estradas of the District of Columbia and of the very North Star Central of Arlington, Virginia will certainly never forget. Now, 9 years later, I went to an Originators show on 14th Street, Club Tropicalia. And there I would meet and converge with the next member of my team, Julian Jr. Marvin, the former lead guitarist of Bob Marley and the Wailers. On that very night of Friday the 13th, December 2013, Club Tropicalia, 14th Street Northwest. Because I went to the Originators CD release party that night. We would converge. Then the following night of the 14th of December, 12/14/13, outside of the Roadside Grill on Wilson Boulevard in Arlington, Virginia, I was under the canopy that leads into the front entrada entry door, and it was pouring rain. It was like a monsoon. And he said to me, I'm in. But remember, whatever I get involved in, my input is always 110%. I said, yes, sir, you've got it. Come to find out that Julian Jr. Marvin was also voted by Guitar Player magazine as one of the top 20 guitar players of the 20th century. Come to find out about Julian Jr. Marvin, that he played guitar for the pioneer of the electric blues, T-Bone Walker, who debuted on Columbia Records in 1929, who was the childhood guitar hero and inspiration to B.B. King and Chuck Berry, who would then become the king of the blues and the founding father of rock and roll. I then learned that when Jimi Hendrix would play his guitar behind his back and with his teeth, that he was in fact emulating his guitar hero and inspiration, T-Bone Walker of Columbia Records, 1929. So Jimi Hendrix did not come up with the concept of playing behind his back and playing with his teeth. It was T-Bone Walker who first did that in 1929. He was every time he did that to pay homage to his hero, who was the same hero and inspiration for B.B. King and Chuck Berry. Okay. So Julian Jr. Marvin was the guitar player for T-Bone Walker. But then I believe T-Bone Walker died in 1975. He was very old by then, of course. So then Julian Jr. Marvin got an offer from Stevie Wonder of Motown Records and Bob Marley and the Wailers. So Julian Jr. Marvin had to pick between either Stevie Wonder or Bob Marley. And he met with both of them. He decided to go with Bob Marley, and he became the lead guitar player of the Wailers in 1977. And he debuted on their studio album called Exodus, which was voted by Time magazine as the #1 CD of the 20th century. When they toured with the Rolling Stones, Bob Marley and the Wailers were the opening act. One of my favorite photos that I posted on my Facebook timeline several years ago is a photo of Julian Jr. Marvin with his arms around Mick Jagger to his left and Bob Marley to his right backstage at Madison Square Garden. Why? Because on that Friday night, December 13th, on that Friday the 13th of December 2013, Julian Jr. Marvin of Bob Marley and the Wailers and T-Bone Walker put his arm around me, and we took a photo together in the dressing room area of Club Tropicalia that night. Then, at the same record release party, I saw and met a local musician who happened to be in a band with the former personal drummer of James Brown. He linked me to the former personal drummer of James Brown and gave me his cell phone number and told James Brown's former personal drummer to expect my call. It was cold. It was dark. It was mid to late December, my Roman Latin Christmas holiday season time. I was in DuPont Circle, where my dad first walked up to my mom in March of 1970, where my dad first stepped inside of and conquered in 1966. But we're now in 2013, December. And I'm behind the business called The Front Page. And it's late. It's like 10 to 11 at night. It's cold. It's mid to late December. This is like a week or two after Friday the 13th, December 2013. The personal drummer of James Brown really, really liked my rough tracks. He loved it. He said he was on board. And I remember when we spoke, and I crossed the street and went into the park. There wasn't a lot of people there. It was cold. It was late December. It was kind of empty because everyone was gone for my Roman Latin holiday. And I went into the park on the phone with James Brown's personal drummer. And I said to him, I'm going to get them for what they did to Michael Jackson. I did say that. Here we are now. Whatever that means, right? So, right there, from Friday the 13th, December 2013, to the final week of December 2013, all of a sudden, I now had the former lead guitarist of the pioneer of the electric blues, T-Bone Walker, who was the lead guitarist of Bob Marley and the Wailers, and the former personal drummer of James Brown on my team, along with Bliss Ananda, who I met in June of 2010. along with Gil Scott Heron's former bassist and co-producer Robbie Gordon, who I met in June of 2011 through Bliss Ananda. Big T of the Pocket Band, who was Paul Simon's former guitar player of Simon and Garfunkel, who was bandmates and business partners with the notorious B.I.G.'s, Faith Evans, and Mary J. Blige, and Nas's former producer Carl Chucky Thompson of the Hitmen. And those two plus Matthew Wood, Wonder Boy, Raheem Devon's replacement on keyboard for the Pocket Band. The mushroom cloud started to spread. That wraps up 2006 to 2013 AD. Jorge Estrada DC's Greatest of Earth, Life, and Human History, Nuked All Clearism, Star Trek, Conquest, Triumph, Dominion, Victoria, Odyssey, Epic, and more. The next video will be 2013 to 2023. Oh boy. Prince's personal drummer, Marilyn Manson's former recording artist. Yeah, all of that, the father of Smokey Robinson's three grandchildren, all of that from 2006 to 2013. I'm not going to repeat it again because then it'll confuse everything. But let me double check. The executor of the estate of George Michael. Right. Let me make sure I didn't forget anyone. Okay. That's it for now, man. The next video will be the Continuum. From December 2013. Well, we did December 2013. January 2014 to March 2023, baby. Get ready. All right. An hour and 23 minutes. Right.